For Alexei, the cold was a familiar, if brutal, truth. For Aisha, it was a new and terrifying exile. And for both of them, the 50-degree hellscape outside his aging SUV was far less dangerous than the human fury that followed them through the frozen darkness. The courtship had been secret, conducted in the warm, steamy confines of the city's few cafes, their breath no longer a frozen plume, but a shared, intimate warmth. Alexei, a Russian Orthodox mechanic from a family that had weathered Siberia for generations, and Aisha, a Dagestani Muslim woman whose family had moved to Yakutsk for work, had found a connection that defied the frozen ground their city was built on. But when Aisha's father, Magomed, a man of rigid tradition and volcanic temper, discovered the relationship, their world shattered. A single, frantic phone call from Aisha. "He knows. He has a knife. I'm at the bus station." Sent Alexei into the heart of the winter night. His first battle was not with Magomed, but with his car. In Yakutsk, starting a car is not a simple turn of a key. It is a high-stakes ritual. Alexei's old Nissan Patrol was already plugged into a web of electrical cables that snaked across the parking lot, connected to a podogrev, an engine block heater that prevents the oil from turning to solid tar. He unplugged it, the heavy insulated cord coiling like a frozen snake. He then turned the key. The starter motor groaned, a sound of profound metallic agony as it fought to spin the syrup-thick oil. He pumped the accelerator gently, a prayer on his lips. A false move, flooding the engine, would mean certain death for the car and for Aisha. After a terrifying, sputtering moment, the engine roared to life. He didn't dare put it in gear yet. He had to let it run for at least 15 minutes, the heater on full blast, to thaw the interior and, crucially, warm the transmission fluid. A cold gear shift could shatter the gearbox as easily as glass. When he pulled up to the bus station, Aisha was a small, trembling figure in a fur coat that was insufficient for the cold, her eyes wide with a fear that had little to do with the temperature. She scrambled inside, bringing with her the scent of perfume and terror. "He will be looking for your car," she whispered, her voice tight. Alexei's driving was a masterclass in cold weather survival. He navigated the ice-glazed streets of Yakutsk with a delicate touch, no sudden brakes or sharp turns. The tires, despite their special winter compound, were as hard as hockey pucks, offering minimal grip. His entire focus was on maintaining momentum, his eyes scanning not for other cars, but for the subtle, deadly sheen of gniled, black ice. The windows, despite the blasting heater, began to frost from the inside out from their combined breath. He had to constantly toggle the defroster, a battle against the condensation of their own panic. He decided their only hope was to flee the city, to take the road of bones towards Magadan, a place to hide and think. But leaving the urban core meant entering a new level of danger. The cold intensified, the ice fog thickening until his high beams reflected back at him, creating a disorienting, glowing tunnel. He knew that if the engine temperature gauge dipped, it meant the radiator was freezing, a death sentence for the engine. He watched it like a hawk. Suddenly, Aisha screamed. Headlights, blindingly bright, appeared behind them, closing fast. It was Magomed's Toyota Land Cruiser, a newer, more powerful beast. He rammed their rear bumper with a sickening crunch of plastic and ice. The Nissan fishtailed wildly. Alexei fought the skid, his hands gentle on the wheel, counter-steering with the ingrained instinct of a man who driven on ice since he was a boy. He didn't brake. He accelerated slightly, regaining traction. "He will kill us!" Aisha cried, clutching the Ikhlas prayer beads in her hand. "The cold will kill us first if we stop," Alexei replied, his voice grim. He knew Magomed's rage was afire, but the 50-degree C air was an ocean that would extinguish them all if they faltered. The horror reached its climax when a second, heavier impact shattered their rear window. A blizzard of glass crystals filled the car, the unimaginable cold flooding in like a physical force. In the rearview mirror, Alexei saw Magomed's enraged face, illuminated by his own dashboard lights. They were trapped between a madman and the frozen abyss. It was then that Alexei made a desperate decision. He spotted a narrow, unplowed track leading off the main road, a hunter's path he knew from summer fishing trips. He wrenched the wheel, the Nissan lurching into the deep snow, the drifts reaching halfway up the doors. He drove until the snow became too deep, the engine groaning in protest, and then he stopped. He turned off the engine. The silence was immediate and absolute, broken only by Aisha's sobs and the ticking of the contracting metal. "Why did you stop?" she pleaded, the temperature already plummeting inside the shattered car. "Because he will stop too," Alexei said, his breath a thick cloud. "And out here, without a running engine, his car will die in 30 minutes, ours too. This is not a chase anymore. It is a siege of cold." He pulled a survival kit from the back, a mandatory item for any Yakutsk driver. He used a roll of heavy-duty plastic and duct tape to seal the broken window, a temporary, fluttering barrier. He wrapped Aisha in a second emergency sleeping bag, a reflective silver cocoon, and held her as they watched Magomed's SUV. The older man had gotten his vehicle stuck, trying to follow them. They saw his interior light come on, then his hazard lights begin to flash, a universal distress signal in the Siberian wilderness. The cold, the great equalizer, was doing what reason could not. An hour later, Alexei restarted his own engine, the sound frail in the immense silence. He drove back to the main road and pulled up beside Magomed's lifeless vehicle. He saw the man inside, no longer a monster, but a frightened, middle-aged man shivering in the dark, his pride frozen away. Without a word, Alexei threw him his tow rope. It was not an act of forgiveness, but of shared humanity, an acknowledgement of the one truth that superseded religion or tradition in Yakutsk. Against the cold, you either help each other or you die alone. As he pulled Magomed's car back onto the road, the tension was still frozen solid between them. But the journey home was a silent, three-vehicle procession, a fragile truce negotiated not with words, but by the merciless, life-saving logic of the deep freeze.